在职场中，我们不免需要面对改变。面对改变呢，很重要的技能也就是要有弹性。So how to be flexible at work? Hello, 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管与沟通力的 Podcast. I'm Sherry, an educator, certified coach, and style enthusiast. 我相信专业有效的沟通是语言跟逻辑的完美结合。
And I'm Nick, a startup consultant, corporate trainer, and late-night gaming junkie. I believe great communication requires the right mindset and solid frameworks.
我们希望带给大家职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。
Join us each week as we share our experience, research, and methodologies to take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast. We've been talking about social styles and how to communicate with different people. But when it comes to people in a workplace, it's not just about communication, it's about your ability to adjust to things that are going on. People bring new dynamics, new ideas, and things can feel fairly chaotic. So how do you get yourself to be more flexible or to adapt better to all of these changing circumstances?
在这个月呢，我们也提到了4种不同的沟通风格。那我觉得其实在做这一些的研究的时候，我也发现啊，很重要的一个技能，也就是 be flexible at work。因为我们永远没有办法去 predict 对方他会怎么样子的回应我们，他的反应是什么。当然也有很多的 uncertainties。所以呢 we're going to talk about just what's the most important thing to be flexible at work.
Sherry came across a few interesting articles that talked about what is the importance of flexibility and how to be more flexible at work. One of the key things that came up in the article, which we'll link in the show notes, is the idea of confidence. But actually, when I read more into it, this really rehashed one of the things that Andrew and I pushed a lot in terms of presentation, which is the idea of comfort over confidence. So I almost feel the idea of flexibility has to do more with comfort than confidence.
So 我们在之前的 premium lessons 我们有提到这个 comfort over confidence， 尤其是在做 presentation 的时候，这种舒适会比自信还要重要。但我觉得 the most important thing about being comfortable, I think it's to understand your core value at work or about any single project that you're working on.
So a little context is in the articles when they talk about confidence is that you have to have the confidence to say what you can and can't do, and that if you can be flexible because you're confident that you can do something, then you can be flexible about it. But back to what Sherry's talking a little bit about this and why I tie it to comfort, which is people who are very comfortable in their position and comfortable with knowing what their core values are and what they can do and can't do, have a tendency to A, know if they can be flexible about something, B, also feel less guilty or less bad when they can't be flexible about something because they know where this all fits.
Right. 所以我们之前在 premium lessons 时候，我们有提到这个 confidence. Confidence 有的时候你会想象我们好像武装自己。You know, we have armor on, right? We have to go out there and always like know exactly what to say, what not to say. Sometimes it's a lot of pressure, especially when we're just not in the best place emotionally or mentally or physically. 但是 comfortable 的话，你没有这样子的压力，你就是知道说，有的时候我就是可以 flexible， 有的时候我比较可以不用那么在意某一些事情，但我还是知道我的 core value 是在哪里。
So let's dive a little bit more into core values, which means when I'm trying to be flexible, what does my core value have to do with this? Well, the first question that you can ask is that when you're working on a certain project that people are asking you to be flexible in terms of your workload, your working hours, the type of responsibility you take, the deadlines, etc. That first question you can ask yourself is simply, what do I actually want at the end of the day? Or what do I actually want at the end of this project?
因为有的时候很多事情一定会改变，或许是其中某一个人或者是某一件事情突发 so 你的 timeline 也改变了 or the number of people get involved in this project may change. So there's a lot of details that may change, a lot of things you planned that can't just be completely out of your control. But if you ask yourself what you actually want at the end of the day or the project, you at least have that in mind, have that core value in mind.
And you can use this to evaluate whether you should be flexible or whether this project still matters to you. Let me give you a more concrete example. When we're running as consultants, when we get projects from a client, there are more outcomes that we want than just say the money for the project. When it comes to consulting, is you need to build your portfolio, you need to build your brand reputation, you need to work on projects that are within your strength, so that you can do the best job possible. So where does flexibility come into this? Well, you may walk into a situation where you think, okay, the client needs this type of help. This is my strength and how I can help them. This is the timeline I can work on, and this is the cost for what I'm going to do. These are your basic requirements you have in mind when you take on this consulting project. Well, very quickly, you can also find out that the more you talk with a client, that what they really want to do is not what you initially discussed. It may not even be within your strength. Now, the idea of flexibility or adaptability goes is, okay, do I take on the new requirements for the project? Do I outsource certain things? Do I even do this because it's not in my wheelhouse? These start to become questions about, do I flex? Do I change the scope of the project? And going back to, what do you actually want at the end of the day? If it's about building your portfolio or building your reputation, but you're not doing anything related to what your consultancy is supposed to do, should you do it or not? Right? Some people may just do it for the money. Like, okay, it's fine. I'll get paid and I'll get done. It may not be a great case. I may not even like that client. So now your question of flexibility comes into place. What do you want out of it at this moment?
Another example that I would give would just be making this podcast, right? We can make a lot of plans about, at the end of the certain year, we want to have this amount of downloads or, 或者是有多少的 subscriber 等等的。但是有很多情况，很多事情它可能会改变。But if at the end of the day, if I ask myself what makes me happy making the podcast, then honestly, I think whatever that we do every single time when we record, I'm happy because I know that we're sharing valuable information to even just one person. And that makes me happy.
Right. So going back to the question is, what do we want actually out of this project? It's come up continually that, say, the fastest growing English related podcasts are related to news, right? Because people want to think they're keeping up with current events. They want something fresh every day. But one of the things we wanted out of this podcast is that you can go back 100 episodes or 200 episodes and that information is still relevant and still actionable. That means that when we make certain decisions about the type of content, the type of topics we take on, it needs to go back to what we want at the end of the day. Now, there have been times where we are flexible. So we talked about labor market changes before as a topic that was a little bit more related to what's happening in 2023. But we felt that there were certain themes in there that we needed to cover, knowing that that may not be as repeatable if someone goes back in a year from now. But because we talked about how to do job interview, how to seek things, how to move people around in a company, some of that information is still relevant. So we found flexibility in there. But if we turned around and said, okay, from now on, we're only going to talk about hot news, this would feel for us about moving away from our core value.
Another thing I wanted to address about how to be more flexible or how to be more comfortable at work is that nothing is personal. If you take ego out of that equation, you will find that it's a lot easier just to be comfortable and flexible.
Right. So a lot of times people have different techniques of getting what they want in a company. And oftentimes it may feel like they're singling you out or they're coming after you specifically, or they're asking you again to move out of your comfort zone in order to help them. If you treat it as, oh, this person is coming after me and asking me to do something I'm not comfortable with, that's sometimes very hard to do. But if you reframe it, which is this person working in the best interest of the company? If they are, then it is a time to be flexible, which is their decision making the right thing for the company or the right thing for our team? Now you can be flexible. There are times where you'll find as like, no, this person's just being greedy or narcissistic, in which case, again, that decision goes back to being very easy. No, I don't need to be flexible. I can be flexible when I can see the bigger picture and I remove the personal aspect away from it. But if I look at, even if I remove the personal aspect, there have been times where we've had to tell our team, you don't need to do that for that person. I've been there like, but they've helped me out a lot. You know, they've been very, it's like, there's a personal arrangement there. That is true, but sometimes that person's just offloading work onto you. There's no reason they can't do it. So we've had to tell our team, it's like, no, they're not acting in the best interest of the company. They're acting in the best interest of themselves. So remove the personal layer from it and then decide whether you should be flexible or not.
所以很希望透过今天的单元能够有一些提示，我们常常也要问自己, what do I actually want at the end of the day? What's my goal of this project? And what makes me happy? 那需要的时候呢，把自己移开，把自己的 ego 也移走. So that would definitely make you have a more comfortable day and more flexible day.
We hope that you enjoyed this quick episode. And if there's anything else that you think needs to be discussed in terms of how do you be flexible at work, how do you find comfort in what you can do or can't do, we'd love to have you share your tips and tricks or questions about this topic. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The Executive Plus podcast is a Presentality Group production, produced and hosted by Sherry Fang and Nick Howard. You can search us on Facebook, 主管英文 Executive Plus. You can also find us on Instagram, Communication R&D, and email us at sherry@epstyleplus.com.